and welcome to episode 26 of the Simply Great Relationships podcast. We're so glad you could join us today. I'm Meredith Silversmith, and this is Marina Varan, and today we are going to be talking about how to have the best New Year's Eve ever.
Woo!
Woohoo! New Year's Eve next week. We'll be covering why it's important to celebrate New Year's, what the new year really means to us and to our relationship, how to start 2018 with intention, and how to set goals that you can look forward to following through on, and how to support one another in each other's goals, which is really key. So make sure you stay with us until the very end because we've got a great bonus for you and we'll tell you how to get it.
I'm really excited about this episode.
I love me some New Year's.
I love me some New Year's. I love me some, really positive, healthy, non-BS goal setting, motivation. So I'm really excited because I love the concept of doing that individually and in the context of the couple.
Yeah.
So why is it important to celebrate New Year's?
It's one of those things, and I know I feel like there's people who hate New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And there's people who love it. And I think it's all about the ritual.
Mm-hmm.
So, we talk about rituals of connection a lot, but New Year's Eve is a really nice ritual because it's coming every year. It's, a holiday where most people have off, and you can create rituals for yourself as an individual and for your relationship around that, which sends the message that your relationship is important.
I think it's just a really nice way to also just have a kind of new start, to press the refresh button. So how do you like to celebrate New Year's?
Oh, yeah. So we've got actually a bit of a ritual. We've got a ritual for Tom and I, but also a ritual with some of our closest friends, where we've really just been spending New Year's together for as long as I can remember, at least the past 5 or 6 years. We've spent it together with my friends Jess and Denny. And we're not huge partiers, so we usually get together at home, and it's a lot of food and maybe some cocktails and just really having fun. So that's been for a couple of years, and then when kids started coming into the mix, we kept it going. So I think that's something that's really important. We didn't, even though life circumstances were changing, we adapted to accommodate that. Now it's a ritual where her daughter is involved and she's experiencing part of that ritual, and Tom and I really enjoy and look forward to that. So I think that's super fun.
I love that cross-generational ritual happening here.
Yes.
That's lovely. I mean, I bet, for her growing up, remembering that ritual, I wonder how she's going to internalize that and if that's going to be something she brings into her relationships.
Yeah.
Which is really awesome.
Very cool. What about for you and George?
George and I love to party. We love to go big for New Year's. We have a couple of kind of quirky rituals. We always get new underwear for New Year's.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yeah, we always get, some nice champagne. We go on, a champagne shop.
Okay.
Because important.
Yes, very important.
And usually, we just plan it. It's just the ritual around it is that we plan, a really big, kind of new, exciting party night, and we make a big deal out of it, and we always spend it together. We spend it with friends. It's we don't have a specific thing. We do the rituals more around the planning, and co-creating that experience that we're going to share in.
Oh, that's really nice. So your focus is really on having fun and creating positive memories, not necessarily what those activities or memories are, but just that they're being created.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. And you know what? It's a really good way to start the year off on the right foot, right? So, I know in 2 weeks when our clients come in, we're going to hear some upset and some horror stories about New Year's. And we're trying to prevent that by talking about this topic today. Because I feel like there can be a lot of expectations and some of them unspoken, and then when they're not met and there's disappointment, it can just lead to a lot of conflict, and then you're starting off 2018 being angry with your partner or feeling let down by your partner.
Yeah.
And that's not a good way to start the year.
Yeah, like, is that the tone you want to set? Like, I'm a big believer in, like, setting a certain tone and staying with that tone, and that's not the tone you want to set. I think it's important to kind of put New Year's in context, though.
Yeah.
Because you go into New Year's after, like, months of just holiday upon holiday upon holiday. And, you know, we've talked about this in previous episodes. Like, there's a lot of emotionally charged stuff going on. You know, it's almost like I wish New Year's was in April.
Yeah.
Where you're not coming off of, like, such a busy season. So it makes sense, right? Like, to put in context, it makes sense that sometimes New Year's can be a little emotionally charged.
Yeah.
Just because of where it falls in the year and where people are emotionally at. But I think being very intentional, planning, having a ritual of connection can really, like, counter that and help make it a really positive experience. Almost like end to the craziness of the holidays and beginning of, like, a newcomer era.
Yeah, definitely. And I think to be forgiving also, to take into account that the holidays were probably really hectic and busy and stressful, and to have realistic expectations for New Year's.
For sure. So, what would you say the New Year means to you?
So, I guess it's definitely like a refresh button. So, although I'm a big proponent of not waiting until the new year, you can hit the refresh button at any time, but it's sort of a really nice, clean, built-in refresh button where everyone's in the same mindset. So it's on TV, it's in the media, it's your friends, you know, everyone's kind of talking about it. So it's a little more present. But it's an opportunity to start doing things differently and to really draw a line between the past and the future.
Yeah. And I think it gives you kind of an opportunity to start working on new goals and new challenges. Like, I personally, like, this is another, like, kind of quirky thing. I don't know if you know this about me, but, like, I like to take on a hobby.
Oh.
A new hobby every year.
Like, I did not know that.
When I made kombucha for a year, and when I made candles for a year.
I didn't know that those started on New Year's.
Yeah.
Now it makes sense. I just thought you were picking up a new leisure activity.
It is.
Yeah.
But I feel like for me that coincides with, like, in this year, like, I will hone this skill.
Okay.
So, I think it, you know, a year is a palatable, like, a mentally palatable amount of time. And I think there's so much growth and learning that can happen in a year that, like, to go through it and say, like, I can accomplish this much in this finite, manageable amount of time. Like, it's really great, and it really helps connect to, like, a sense of motivation. I think people get really overwhelmed when they feel like they have to do something forever.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas to say, like, I have this goal for this year. This year will come, this year will go. Like, I have this goal for 365 days. I'm going to see how it works for me. Really helps you connect with that sense of motivation, with that sense of, like, I can do it, with that sense of, like, this is what's going to drive me.
Yeah, and it reduces the overwhelm. That's a really good point. You know, forever's a long time. So call it a year and do your best for that year. And then if you want to continue from there, you can. That's a really good point. And I think it's, you know, again, drawing that line, it's an opportunity to become a bit of a new you or a bit of a new couple. You know, it's like, okay, that was 2017. This is 2018. If we want to do it differently, we can. You know, and again, just having that motivation and that fresh start, I think a lot of it's mindset and perspective to the flavor of this season.
Yeah, and I love that. I think it's a much needed perspective, especially coming off of the holidays. That you don't have to be stuck in something that's not working for you. You don't have to individually be stuck in a certain role that's not working for you. As a couple, you don't have to be stuck in a pattern that's not working for you, you get to say, you get choice, you get autonomy, you get to decide what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about how to start 2018 with intention. Kind of obsessed with this word, intention. I feel
Me
like
too.
I bring it up a lot because it's this concept of you're not just floating through life, like bouncing off. Like, I always think of like a, what's it called, pinball machine?
Yeah.
Where you're just like getting like
Thrown
bounced.
in every direction.
Is it a pinball machine?
I think
Is that what it's called? Little flipper things?
Yes.
Okay. You're getting bounced from thing to thing and you're just kind of floating through and you don't have any control, whereas you actually have a lot of control.
Yeah.
And if you're setting yourself up or your relationship up with certain intentions, you're more likely to reach your goals, you're more likely to walk that path, you're more likely to have the life that you want to have and the relationship that you want to have. So, I mean, gosh, why not?
Yeah. I also think intention is so connected to our emotional world.
Yeah.
When we set an intention to feel when we set an intention to do something, we're really setting an intention to want to feel a certain way while we're doing it. And connecting with that sense of intention as opposed to just coasting and letting whatever happens happen, like, allows you to connect to that feeling that you want to feel so much more. And I find myself saying it in session all the time. I'm like, intention, intention, intention. Be intentional about the way you want to feel and the way you want to make your partner feel. Don't just expect a feeling to create itself.
Yeah.
When you have that intention, you're doing the things required to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, there are some questions you can ask yourself to start thinking about your intentions. So what would be, maybe if we want to give some examples, so if a question to ask yourself is, what do you want 2018 to feel like and look like? What would be like an example of an answer someone might have?
So, I mean, I can give you a personal answer, right? Like, for me, I have a couple of intentions already that I'm thinking about for 2018. Like, I really want 2018 to be calm, organized, productive on a personal level. My intention is to, I don't have to tell you that we have a lot of things going on, to emotionally and mentally manage the workload in a much calmer way. Right? So I started with, how do I want to feel? And what I looked at is, like, how did I feel in 2017? And I definitely had these moments of overwhelm.
Yeah.
Looking into 2018, my intention is not to completely say I will never feel overwhelmed, but to say I want to create a lot more calm around this process.
Yeah.
So that is my intention, and what that looks like is to put in a better system around getting things done that cause the overwhelm.
That's a great example. Makes a lot of sense. So if you, can listen to that and say, okay, how do I want to feel? And get really in tune with that. And then, well, what would it look like if I were feeling that way? And sort of work backwards. That's a really good way to get in touch with what your intention's going to be. And you have to consider yourself as an individual and then yourselves as a couple, right? What do we want to feel? What do we want our life to look like? Those are two separate processes. And our bonus this week is going to help you with that. So be sure to check it out. The other piece being, we're talking about intention. What do we want to add in? What do we want to gain? What do we want to feel? But there's only so much space in your world and in your life. So you also have to work on letting go of some things and moving away from some things. And, what do you think? How do you think they could work on that?
So I think it is like, just like the example I gave, like what I wanted to let go of is overwhelm. Right? I realized overwhelm is not doing me well and I want to let go of it. So I want to essentially almost like crowd out the bad by intentionally putting in the good. So it's almost like thinking about the feelings you had and the habits you had that didn't work for you, what's the opposite of that?
Yeah.
What do you want to crowd out the bad stuff with?
Yeah.
That's the opposite of that bad stuff. If you felt a lot of anger, do you want to create a lot more calm? If you felt a lot of hostility, do you want to create a lot more connection? If you, as a couple, felt a lot of disconnect, do you want to create a lot more connection? Right? I think it's really about scanning the feelings you didn't like holding.
Yeah.
And figuring out what the opposite is.
Makes a lot of sense. So you go through that process, you set your intention, you use our bonus from this week to do it, and then you can start to look at goals, right? So intentions are a little more vague. Intentions are feelings and vision and vibes, I sometimes say. Like, this is sort of the path I want to walk, but goals are, where am I going?
Yeah.
You know?
I like to say that intention is the gasoline and the goal is the car.
Okay.
You know, like, you need the fuel for the car to go. The car gets you to where you're going.
Okay.
So if you need kind of a context, I just find that's like a very easy visual that resonates with people. But goals, much more doable, right? So how do people get clear on their goals? Because I think that's where people kind of fall into trouble and where people set themselves up for a lot of internalized disappointment and failure. They're not too clear on their goals are too vague, and then they're like, oh, well, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? So how do people get clear on their personal goals?
Again, I think you're asking yourself some questions to get that clarity. And this is hard. It's hard. You may know exactly where you want to go, but if you're not specific enough and you're not realistic enough, you know, people talk about SMART goals, and I'm sure people have heard of that specific, measurable. A. Oh my gosh. Like, E. What's the E? A. Actionable? No, attainable?
Attainable, yeah.
This is a good quiz. Realistic.
Time sensitive.
Yeah. Time limited.
Time limit. Something with time.
You can Google SMART goals.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But point being, you want to know you have to be able to know when you've made it, and you have to be able to work backwards from the ultimate goal and know what are the steps I could take that are actually going to bring me to that end point. So some questions you can ask yourself is, what makes this important to me? Right? That's your motivation. What's your why? Is essentially what that is. How will I feel when I'm working towards this? Again, filling that motivation bucket.
I also think this is a really important question to, like, draw a distinction from the question that people usually ask themselves, which is, how will I feel when I achieve this? There are a lot of goals where, like, being in the process of achieving it is, like, the good enough, as opposed to being at your end result. Like, something like, I know this is everybody's goal, is to lose weight. Like, being in the process and really knowing and feeling like you're being physically active, you're eating well, you're staying hydrated, is much more important than, like, once I hit the number on the scales. So that's where I really want to challenge people to have a bit of a shift. Instead of asking, how will I feel at the end? Yeah. It's, how will I feel when I'm well on my journey?
Yeah, that's a great point. And then you want to get a little more specific in terms of what you need, right? So how will I feel? That's great. What do I need? What do I need for me as an individual to get there? And what do I need from my partner and from my relationship to get there? Because those tangibles are really important.
Yes, so I think getting really clear, answering those questions thoroughly, really going for, you know, the bigger picture answer is really important, and then breaking it down into those small, doable, actionable, realistic steps.
Yeah. Yeah. And going through that process individually on your own, and then coming together with your partner and sharing what you came up with them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Letting them into your world, letting them into your thought process. They need to know what's important to you and what
Mm-hmm.
you're doing and where you're headed, because A, they can support you and offer that encouragement, and B, you want them to help you stay on track to some extent, right?
You don't want them to police you.
No.
I think this is where couples butt
Mm-hmm.
heads quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the letting in part, and then again, like we've talked about co-creation
Mm-hmm.
of shared visions and goals, episode 13,
Yeah.
where we talked about when relationships don't feel like a fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 15, how to get your partner to support your life's dreams.
Yeah.
Those are really good episodes to go back to and listen and make a ritual, a date night of sharing your goals, of co-creating couples goals together,
Mm-hmm.
and of being accountability partners, not police officers for each other.
You said that you wanted to lose weight. Why are you eating that?
Yeah, exactly. You know what that is? Not sexy.
No. Not sexy, not connecting, not supportive.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
But what is really supportive is, hey, we're working on this together.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we cook dinner together?
Yep. How can I support you in achieving your goal?
Mm-hmm.
I want to help. Is it helpful if I buy, are there any
Mm-hmm.
particular foods you need me to buy or not buy? Let me know what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So you've done your individual work.
Mm-hmm.
You've come up with your individual feelings and what you need and your goals, and you've shared that with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully they've done the same and shared it with
Mm-hmm.
you. So now you're going to create your joint goals,
Mm-hmm.
your couple's goals. How would we do that?
So I think the first question is, how do we want our relationship to feel?
Mm-hmm.
This is the magic question that, I think is the foundation of everything. How do we want our relationship to feel in 2018? Right? Start with the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
What, and this is again where you can go back to like, what were maybe some feelings you didn't like holding last year as a couple? What were some feelings that you loved holding last year as a couple?
Yeah.
What were some feelings that maybe were missing for you last year
Mm-hmm.
as a couple? Like, use last year as kind of an evaluation tool
Mm-hmm.
and say, this is what worked. This is what we want more of.
Yeah.
These are the feelings that maybe brought us down.
Mm-hmm.
Let's replace those with the opposite of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a great way to integrate the new good things into your relationship with consistency is rituals of connection.
Mm-hmm.
So once you identify them, you're really searching for what rituals of connection do we want to build in 2018. So go way back to episode 2, getting back to the honeymoon phase, one habit at a time, and download our Rituals of Connection master list, because that's going to guide you through this. That's going to make this process a lot quicker and easier. We even have examples on there of rituals that can be really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And they touch on different areas of your relationship. So that's a really great sort of cheat sheet to getting into couples goals.
Yeah, and couples goals don't have to be like super complex or super... I feel like couples goals have like a bit more fluidity to them.
Yeah.
Which is really nice, but I think couples goals, this is where the intention piece is so key to connect with. And again, when you're saying this, these are the feelings we want, it's like this is the intention we want to set for this year.
Yeah. And it is more fluid because, as we're talking about this, I'm realizing me as an individual, if I have a goal, I can be in control of the effort I put in, the work I put in, the time I put in, my commitment, and I could work towards it and achieve it. Mm-hmm. But when it's a couple's goal, I can only control 50% of that.
Yeah.
And I have to count on and trust that my partner's going to invest their 50%, but they may not always be able to. Mm-hmm. And I might always be able to, right? So they can't be as cut and dry and as like, well, this is going to happen by August 31st. We're going to be happy, or we're going to feel super connected. You know, it's more we want to go in this direction, and we're going to invest the time and energy with consistency to get there.
Yeah, and we're going to use our rituals of connection to create the feelings we want to create.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why I think that master list is so great, because it, you know, it has the emotional based, the friendship based, and the intimacy based, and generally, like, the feelings you want in a relationship are tied to one of those three. Maybe adventure is another one.
Yeah.
But, so that's a really, really great resource that I would definitely go back to when you're doing your couples goals, to get on that and allow, like, a little bit more fluidity. It's not necessarily SMART goals.
Yeah. You're not dragging the other person across the finish line, right?
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Yeah. So we don't want you to just listen. We want you to listen and to integrate this into your relationship. So like we said before, we put together a really, really great bonus. I really love this one. The Couples New Year's Resolution Cheat Sheet. You can get it at simplygreatrelationships.com/026. So.
Takeaways. What's your takeaway? What's your big takeaway today?
Well, my big takeaway is what you said with the, like, couples goals. You're only in charge or in control of 50%.
Yeah.
So they need a little more flexibility, a little more wiggle room. They're not as concrete because you don't want to create the tension and the headbutting, because you're like, I'm putting in 72 and you're only putting in... You know, it's more about focusing on the feeling and recognizing that this is 50% mine, it's 50% yours. That would be my big takeaway.
Definitely.
What about for you?
I think I like kind of what you had shared around your New Year's Eve rituals, that we do certain things, like our intention is to create fun, enjoyable memories. But at the same time, there are also some very concrete things that we do. And I think that's kind of cool. And that's something I'd like to integrate into my relationship. And even integrating a ritual around sitting down with this cheat sheet together and doing it on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. I kind of love that. New Year's Day rituals of sleeping late and having a big breakfast and staying in your pajamas and just kind of creating, like, that's really a reset button to me.
Yeah.
And downloading the cheat sheet and sitting on New Year's Day and, you know, with a cup of coffee and relaxing and no pressure, and do it together. I actually think that would be a great idea, and I think I'm going to do that.
I think I'm going to borrow that and do that also. So we both have January 1st planned.
Yep.
Which is nice.
Yep. I like it.
Yeah.
Hopefully our husbands are on board, but
I get the feeling they might be.
So that's all for today. We hope you take these tips and start using them right away, definitely for next week. We'd love for you to continue the conversation with us in our Facebook group, where we'll be hooking you up with tips, tricks, and live streams exclusively for our members. Maybe we'll even do a little live stream as we're doing our homework on the 1st. I'm going to put that out there right now, accountability. And you can find us at facebook.com/groups/simplygreatrelationships, or click the link on our website, simplygreatrelationships.com. Have a great New Year's Eve. Enjoy. Download the bonus. Be sure to have that for your low-key New Year's Day celebration. And we'll see you next week.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye.